So I thought, okay, I can just read the BABOK and it's going to be a cakewalk. Just read it every day and I can clear it. I had this thing of PDIE, GTSO, which I call it.
How did you structure your preparation? Did you have a study plan or a specific schedule for it?
Take the chapters separately and then prepare it knowledge area by knowledge area. So that was the first big step in to show you what I did. It might be useful for other students who are preparing.
Professionals find it very difficult to take the first step.
Yeah.
Okay. So what helped you build your strategy and confidence early on?
These mnemonics, and you could just go through all the Techcanvass mock were actually difficult than the exam itself. So I guess if you can take the Techcanvass mock-ups and if you can score about like say 80% to be safe.
What are the common mistakes candidates should avoid while they are preparing for the CBAP? For those who is preparing for the first time, what top 3 tips would you give them to ensure they can clear the exam in their first attempt? Hello and welcome to FuturePath Global, a knowledge series by Techcanvass, where we explore the evolving trends, tools, and technologies shaping the future of business and data. Today we are talking about the most important milestone in business analyst career, the CBAP certification. Our topic for today is CBAP preparation approach, tips for the first attempt success. And to help us understand better, we have with us Mr. Amuthan Sundar, a CBAP certified professional and a proud Techcanvass alumni who successfully cleared his CBAP certification in the first attempt. Welcome to FuturePath, Amuthan. It's a pleasure to have you here. So let's begin by knowing about your background and what motivated you to pursue for CBAP certification.
Sure. I've been a business analyst for over 11 years, multiple domains such as media and entertainment, travel and hospitality, and currently I'm in a vertical which is to do with life sciences and health data solutions. So I was just reflecting back and, figured out that, it's been like 11 years I'm into this profession and just more of a respect for what I've been doing all this while. And that's the most important aspect I would say that I wanted to take up some sort of a certification, not necessarily CBAP, but then CBAP was something that was sort of closer to what I was doing, what I'm doing as a business analyst. It's more to say like a curiosity to a crisis. So that's my main motivation.
Okay, that's interesting. So how did you get started with your CBAP preparation strategy? How long did it take from start to finish?
I'll start from scratch. So as I mentioned, right, curiosity to a crisis. So I picked up the BABOK, the physical version of the BABOK, the real hard one. So it was like somewhere about 2015 to 18, sometime around that time. So I thought, okay, I can just read the BABOK and it's going to be a cakewalk. Just read it every day and I can clear it. So I used to read it very religiously for some time. Most of the time I fell asleep and I couldn't figure out anything. But then years kept going. At some point, I used to travel by bus to my office in Chennai. I was working in Chennai at that point of time. So I used to take the BABOK with me. I used to read the BABOK and take some notes. Generally, if I'm studying something, I normally use cue cards a lot, like stuff like this. If I can see it, I don't know, all these kind of stuff. So I used to take a lot of these cue cards and write condensed things. That also didn't work for some time. After that, I lost interest because the book, the kind of content is something like that. It's extremely dry, and at that point of time, I think the industry was almost into agile from waterfall, right? So we were more keener, and I think also IIBA introduced the agile extension handbook at that point of time. So my direction got lost there. So I didn't really kind of focus much. But then there was a turning point that happened in 2023. I just attended a kind of demo, not a demo, but it's some sort of a talk, just like a talk that came from one of the forums that my friend recommended. And that was a talk by a guy called Satish. And Satish is one of your instructors. Yeah, right. So Satish was talking about CBAP. So all this while I was not even thinking about ECBA, CCBA, because I was only looking at CBAP because thinking that, that's more deeper and things like that. But when I heard Satish talk, a lot of things changed. So I had to make sure that, this is not an easy thing. It requires a lot of discipline. You just can't crack this exam without help. So if you're trying to crack on your own, there are people who do that, respect to them, but then it's not one of those exams which you can clear on your own. So that really changed my perspective and preparation strategy. So that's when I really considered joining Techcanvass and all that stuff. When life gets heavy, right, there's a gravitational pull to do something different. So that's when I started getting into some form of a very disciplined way of approach and stuff like that. So then when I enrolled for the program, there's no point in reading the BABOK end to end. That's not going to help you. So I would recommend who was preparing for for CBAP, just take copies of each knowledge area separately. That's the first thing you do. Don't try to like read the BABOK end to end, page to page. If you have the time and you have that, the capability to do that, but then I would only say just take, chapter by chapter as a printout, so that okay, you can cover one chapter. You know every one knowledge area in and out, and then you go to the next one. So I had this thing of like PDIE GTSO, which I call it, which is purpose, description, input, guidelines and tools, stakeholders and outputs, right? So, and elements, of course. So these things were something that I figured out, but then when you actually got into the classes and stuff, it was very, very different. So you need to know what to pick up, what not to pick up. So that is the first strategy, I would say. Take the chapters separately and then prepare it knowledge area by knowledge area. So that was the first big step. It's really yielded some results for me. I would say that's the first starting point. And then the classes with Satish was pretty much in that fashion. He also recommended the same thing. So that kind of propelled a lot of things faster. But then that class happened only last year. I was serious about preparation only last year. So till that point, I said, okay, let me just go knowledge area by knowledge area. But then in the class, we kind of, it was about, after the class, I would say it's about a 12-week intense preparation that I did in different formats. I can just show you what I did. It might be useful for other students who are preparing for it. But yeah, this is pretty much how I started off. As we go along, I can just show you I brought some assets with me today, which I kind of used. So when I say like knowledge area by knowledge area, I'm talking about, so like, for example, just take the BAPM, the separate chapter. There could be like a lot of important things you can circle it around. And this you can conquer it within a week of intense study. Every week, if you could just dedicate around 2 hours. So this discipline came to me. I was doing a bit of Duolingo at that point of time. So I was like, think of it like a streak. You just have to make sure that you have to stick to the 2 hours, dedicated 2 hours. 2 hours is good enough to cover something deep at some point of time. That'll really yield some results. And then same thing for all different knowledge areas. I did that. Like, everything is taken out as a printout. And then, yeah, so basically that's the kind of thing. 35% of content and 60% of technique, so to speak, is what I targeted initially. But then reading it end to end really helps. So that's one thing.
That's inspiring. So this was my next question only. So any professional find it very difficult to take the first step.
Yeah.
Okay. So what helped you build your strategy and confidence early on?
So as I told you, right? So it's confidence, is it? Okay. So I wasn't confident at all. So until I kind of, the real confidence came to me only in the last 3 weeks. Till that point of time, this was too much for me. I couldn't handle this. It's not something that I was prepared for, because this exam, let me tell you, for people who really, who are losing confidence, is because the exam, you cannot use whatever you're doing at work. It's completely the BABOK and the BABOK alone. So all the questions and everything should be associated with the BABOK. So that's where the challenge is. So unless you sort of some kind of, I wouldn't say the word memorize, but some way if you could drench yourself in the BABOK. So that's the challenging part. So you could use any technique in your kitty to do that. I can share something today, but then that's the most daunting task. I would say it's a very normal thing that someone could go through that. But yes, so I would say just stay focused. Just take one step at a time. Just take knowledge area by knowledge area. Don't think about the exam date. Don't think about when to crack the exam, but then think about preparation. Think about solid preparation. And then the last 3 weeks becomes a lot more, you get the confidence automatically. Yeah, that's pretty much.
Yeah. So for those people who are not very much familiar, could you explain briefly about what CBAP is and why it holds such important experience for a senior business analyst?
Okay, so if you're a business analyst, first of all, let me tell you, you don't need a certification to become a business analyst. Okay, you just need some basic common sense, some good communication. And if you're into a domain specific industry, like something like banking, you need to be a specialist in the domain. Okay, let's talk about the Indian context, but IIBA does not recommend you to be a domain specialist. You can be a domain agnostic. The most important qualification is to have I'll tell you in absolute layman's language, you just need common sense and good communication. Number one. Okay, that's absolute prerequisite. In addition to that, you should have an intellectual curiosity for things. That really helps. So now, if you're getting into an exam, you want to get some credentials in that perspective, there is only one body that could certify you as a business analyst, and that's IIBA. Let's agree that there's no other, like how you have PMP, this is IIBA pretty much. So there are 3 levels, basically ECBA, CCBA, and CBAP. So if somebody's preparing for CBAP without substantial experience, right? First of all, you don't qualify for the exam. You need 7,500 hours. And even if you do qualify, and even if you somehow write the exam, right, your work would be very difficult. You may not understand a lot of things. So how is it different from the other exams like ECBA and CCBA? ECBA is like a basic entry level. Like if you want to just attend an interview and call yourself a business analyst or try for a business analyst interview, at least some certification, or even if you don't have past experience, they require a certification these days. So ECBA is a good choice. So the difference between CBAP and ECBA and CCBA is that you have the knowledge areas are not complete. Like CBAP covers the whole 9 yards, all the six knowledge areas, and then ECBA I think has maybe a less. I don't know how many. I didn't try for ECBA, so ECBA and CBAP has lesser knowledge areas. So that's the main difference. But then CBAP, you will have to, if you're calling yourself as a CBAP certified professional, it's better you have some industry experience and then you take up the certification. That adds more value, because after you finish your CBAP and you go to your workplace, and depends on your workplace and the situation around, they might give you tasks which you probably can't handle. So that's the main difference. Prerequisites change depending on the number of hours you spend, for a number of industry experience you have for each certification. ECBA I don't think has any prerequisite, I'm not sure, but then CCBA has got something. But then CBAP does have a 7,500 hours, and sometimes it goes for audit. I think it goes for audit most of the times these days, I'm not sure. So you'll have to be a BA in good standing in your organization. That really adds to this certification. It's a very deep certification, so to speak. It's a serious affair, so don't take it lightly.
Yeah, great points. So you have already answered the next question. What was the difference between ECBA, CCBA, and CPAP? So when it comes to studying, which areas or knowledge domains from the BABOK do you think deserves the most attention?
I would say requirement analysis and design definition, RADD. I think it's a universal statement that everyone will tell you this. And then comes RLCM, because there is a lot of association between RADD and RLCM. Also a bit of solution evaluation, because, for example, let's say if you want to have a light touch approach, you might have to look at how these things are interconnected. So I would say RADD, focus a lot on RADD. It's quite, a lot of people ask me this question about this case study once. So if you're good at if you can figure out which knowledge area, I'm just deviating slightly, and I'll come back to which is the knowledge area that's more difficult. If you could figure out which knowledge area that question is from, right, your preparation, you can crack the scenario based questions really quick, and it's quite fast as well. It's pretty straightforward as well. But I would say RADD the most, because I think they don't have a percentage of score in the exam. So let's say if you are scoring low in RADD and RLCM, I think you don't clear the exam. I'm not sure. You cannot have a low score in RADD and RLCM. I would say aim at high, aim at the sky and reach the treetop. So be like really well prepared in RADD, because that's in fact, even beyond the exam, even in the industry, when you look back, and if I look at what I'm doing today at work, it's pretty much RADD in some form or the other, maybe the agile version of it. But then that's the core things that we touch upon. So RADD, RLCM, I would suggest as a no compromise situation. BAPM is also quite good, quite important. So these three I would say, and a bit of solution evaluation. Others are equally important, but then these two things you have to pay extra attention from an examination standpoint. Yeah.
So let's talk about now planning. So
Yep.
how did you structure your preparation? Did you have a study plan or a specific schedule for it?
Yes, I did. As I told you, it was initially, I'll come to from a pure examination point of view. The 12 weeks that I spent the last 3 months before the exam, it's been exactly a year since I took the exam. So what happened was the last 3 months, I had dedicated I was working as well. So, I didn't have like much time. So I used to spend 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the evening. And I used to travel by train to my office with the metro. So I used to I used to prepare some mnemonics. I'm kind of okay with mnemonics. There are some people who may not be good at mnemonics. They might find it difficult to memorize things. But if you can memorize, it's great, because as I told you, the questions are going to come from the BABOK. But that's not a must to have. Okay. So I used the technique of mnemonics. I used to, for example, I used to take my phone with me, and, I can probably share what I used to do. So I used to have the 6 knowledge areas, and used to, for example, let's say you can have, these mnemonics, and, you could just go through so basically there are 6 knowledge areas, 30 tasks, and approximately 142 elements. So if you can know these things and the inputs and outputs, half the job is done. So remembering these elements, all these stuff would be daunting at times. So I use that time in the train to practice all that and memorize all that. But sometimes you feel like it's better to memorize than to towards the end of the exam, right? Because then it becomes easier for you to connect the dots. I'm not saying memorize and just vomit everything. You can't do that. You can't do that in the exam at all. It's not like one of your other exams, but this is the memorizing thing helps you so that you have a clear thought process. Then attacking a question would be much easier. So I would say if you can't memorize, well and good, no problem. You just focus on these. Try to remember the elements. Try to associate yourself to something that you like the most. For example, I used to for RADD. There's a mnemonic I remember called MARI, Mari. So I used to call it as Mari. So Mari could be a colloquial word somewhere, but that really helped me to remember things like that, stuff like that. So yeah, those things really help. And then came I used the Techcanvass module. I used to religiously take the Techcanvass study material, which has a combination of the match the following, and then you have a lot of those questions. It's like a kind of a regimen that you go through. That I did for almost like 2 months. Every day I should take that up. That kind of structures your brain to an extent that it becomes muscle memory after some point. And then came I because there was only like three full mock exams. So the mock exam one was what didn't go really well. I scored really low. I scored like around 50s or something like that. Really, after all this preparation, I'm saying, or maybe I didn't concentrate much. I thought it'll be a piece of cake, but then that was tough. The Techcanvass mock were actually difficult than the exam itself. So I guess if you can take the Techcanvass mock-ups, and if you can score about like say 80% to be safer, I'll be very honest. Say 80%, you can definitely go ahead and take the CBAP certification, because that's how it's structured. So there was like numerical questions and all that stuff, which is very simple math stuff, which you would have probably done in your class 10 or something like that. Like those kind of basic stuff. You won't have, like, for example, nobody's going to ask you on integration and differentiation, those kind of stuff, but then very simple math stuff. So that you can really, really quickly crack it. What could go wrong? I mean, I wouldn't say it go wrong. Again, there are a lot of people have this mindset that, oh my God, I have this scenario based questions. What am I going to do? And they're so panicky about it. So as I told you, if you know your knowledge areas well, and if you can, figure out what is the underlying knowledge area, then it's quite simple. So don't read the whole question. You'll get sidetracked. That's a strategy they're trying to, put you off with. So instead, just read the answer of the question. So you'll figure out, okay, these are the answers. It's pretty much there. I know what to figure out. Then you can read certain sections of the question. Sometimes it works like that. And sometimes I remember getting a question which was a combination of numerical plus something else. So that could be a little daunting. But then if you know your stuff, as I told you, if you practice enough, you would get that. So the core is, I mean, using mnemonics was my technique. I can only share my technique. Then you can improvise on that. You can use a mnemonic structure to remember all the knowledge areas, as well as the tasks and the elements, probably even inputs and outputs. Sometimes even the guidelines and tools and techniques. So certain knowledge areas have these techniques constantly coming up, right? So brainstorming will be there for commonly across most of the knowledge areas. Those kind of things you can associate with something that you remember, either with mnemonics or with something that you can associate yourself. I think that's why Techcanvass gives you. I used to have a mind map. So I used to print out this mind map in my room. So it was like every time I look at it, I'll know, okay, this is how the association is. So these things really, really helps. So, and take a printout. I mean, when you have it have a digital copy, it's great when you're traveling. But then when you're really putting the 2 hours or 4 hours of studying, then this really helps. And towards the end, like I'm talking about 2 weeks before the exam, it was almost like an intense preparation. It's like a 12-hour sessions I've had. I know I might be a slow learner, but there are guys who can finish off faster than me, like in 3 hours or 6 hours. But then 12 hours it took for me. I look at it. Let me compare it with something easier. Okay, if you want to go for a world class concert, okay, and you're a pianist and you're like giving your best to perform, you need that kind of practice, right? You can't go wrong. So think of the exam as you practice for a year and a half, and you just have only 3 hour window to showcase what you have. If you motivate yourself like this, then a lot of things become easier. You will yourself will invent methods which can work for you. And then a lot of, I used to keep on practicing the structure of, I used to keep on writing the knowledge areas, and I used to see how fast I can write them. I mean, the elements, the tasks, and the knowledge, the knowledge areas, tasks and elements, how fast can I write it? So can I write it like within 15 minutes? If I can write it in 15 minutes, that's great. Because what I did in the exam was they give you a kind of a board where you can just, it's an erasable pad sort of a thing. If you can write everything in that, then it becomes very easy for you to refer that back. So you can just do something called this is what Satish taught me. It's something called as a memory dump or a brain dump, right? And that really helped me in the scheme of things. And during the exam, it really helps you to refer that quickly and do that. That's what I would say. And then I used not a little bit, I used quite a considerable amount of watermark learning, because I got exhausted with all the learning, the 3 exams that Techcanvass offered, and I was still not sure. You keep doubting yourself, right? So that's when I used the watermark learning a bit. It's worth it. It's about, I think, $100. But if you're really serious about this exam, I think you might as well pay it and get it. And maybe it really came in handy towards the end. Yeah, that was my preparation of sorts.
Yeah, so that's actually really very helpful for the audience. So most of the time we have heard that many professionals says BABOK feels overwhelming. They start and they stop. Okay, so somehow they are not able to connect the dots. So how did you simplify it for yourself?
It was overwhelming for me as well, as I told you in the previous questions, right? So simplification. Okay, can I just tell you something which I don't know if who was listening to this. See, BABOK does not certify you as a good business analyst. Okay, this is from a context of CBAP, preparation for CBAP. BABOK is your best friend, and all the questions are going to be like gauged based on your knowledge of the BABOK and how well you understand understand BABOK. So if you think those 500 odd pages is difficult, then try to break them down as chapters and try to, make it interesting in ways you can. It's not interesting. So you'll have to make it interesting, like how I made mnemonics and things like that. And then if you don't try to read it like cover to cover, for example, don't read underlying competencies, for example, right? Those are like basic, simple stuff which you can easily crack. Focus on the six knowledge areas, what you can do, knowledge area by knowledge area by knowledge area. So if you try to read the whole BABOK as a whole, then it's never going to come. So think of it like, so what happens is over time, you will definitely remember business analyst planning and monitoring easily. And then you can easily understand strategy analysis. Then you can connect the dots between RLC and requirements lifecycle management and requirements analysis and design definition. The easiest was I felt was elicitation and collaboration to some extent, but that was in fact I got comparable in that. So that's I was like surprised to do that. I thought I'll get high on that, but then that is weird. Okay, so things can go wrong there also. But what I would suggest is there's no shortcut to it, but then make BABOK however interesting you can. You can associate it with some movie that you saw and get some characters out of it and draw parallels with that. You have enough time. So don't take up the exam. I would suggest people do not to take the exam unless you're 100% sure, because it's not a small exam, right? It needs a lot of preparation. Yeah, so practice as much as you can. So these are the some of the notes I brought it and came. You just write down whatever you're learning. So the more you write, it gets registered better. I mean, each one has, as I told you, Bhavana, each one has like their own way of putting things into the head and preparing for an exam. My way of thing was writing it down to some extent, to a great extent, and then the mnemonics really helped. So that's the way you can there's no shortcut to the BABOK, unfortunately.
I completely agree. Yeah. So, as you have already covered, okay, how to like, there is no specific shortcut or to simplify the BABOK. You have to read and understand that. Okay. So, generally, like, what are the common mistakes candidates should avoid while they are preparing for the CBAP?
I'll start from the root. Okay, I don't know about which candidate we are referring to, but then if the candidate, first of all, CBAP, you don't think about CBAP if you're not, if you're like a fresher into this career, if you're like just like 2-3 years into the industry, don't think about CBAP at all. It's not going to be of any use to you. Second thing is CBAP is not everything. First, your preparation starts mentally, so you should get mentally prepared for this exam. This takes a toll on yourself. I'm not saying you'll fall sick or anything, but it requires a lot of. It's a hard sport to play, so it requires a lot of mental, workout. So preparation starts there. You'll have to give away. So let's say if you're a person who likes to watch movie during the weekend, or you like to chill out during the weekend, so that's not going to happen for at least 6 months, right? So unfortunately, that's how it is. So if you're a person who can't remember things, and then it's going to be worse than that. It's going to take more time for you to find out a means of for you to like understand the concepts and in such a way that you can remember things. So mentally, you got to be prepared for CBAP first, and then comes everything. Then comes Techcanvass. Then comes the BABOK, everything else. So once you're mentally prepared and going to fall into a discipline, there are a few exceptions who can study things like this, crack things overnight. Hats off to them. But then for people who can't do that, I would say, at least for me, it required a lot of discipline, 6 months of discipline. And after 6 months, when you actually clear the exam, you feel like a big burden is off your head. So that's something I would recommend. So mentally prepare first, and then you think about CBAP. Then everything else will make sense. If you're not mentally prepared, you lose focus halfway through. A lot of people very enthusiastically start studying and then they give it up. Like I know people have just given it up weeks before the exam, thinking that no, I just can't do it. So I would say
I
mentally be
completely
prepared. Yeah.
agree with the things you mentioned. Okay, that it's not an easy exam. You have to spend some time, and because it's a very really tough exam, you need to give that time yourself to prepare and really work hard for it. So thank you so much for clarifying this.
No
So
worries.
now let's move to your exam day. What was your actual exam experience? Actual exam experience, like any surprises or any key takeaways for the audience?
Yeah, first key takeaway I would say is, okay, I also brought this my examination hall ticket, so please don't forget this. It's a very important one. There are two formats the exam comes in, right? You can take it online as well as you could go to one of those Prometric centers and take it. I would recommend the Prometric center because you could be rest assured that all these other logistics are sorted out. You just can focus just on the exam, which is great. So always do that if you feel like you're going to be like jittery and all that stuff. So first of all, the mistake I made was I didn't sleep the previous night because of the anxiety I had. Okay, so when the examination was scheduled around like in the afternoon, 2 o'clock. So I was kind of very very. I was not in myself, so to speak, right? So I just didn't know if I could handle it. So I just went there. So never do that. So please rest yourself well. It's easier said than done. Okay, if I just say okay, please take a lot of rest, drink a lot of water, like things like that, it never works. You can't do that because the anxiety, because you're preparing for such a long time and you want to keep rechecking things like that will make you go like crazy, right? So try and take it could chill, maybe give a week's gap to reach the exam. Like prepare everything, but just give a week's gap so that you just, go through brush ups gradually and then get into the exam so that you get enough rest and things like that. What will happen is, I'll tell you, when it comes to the arithmetic questions, or not arithmetic questions, case study and all that, you may lose focus. So that's when, I found it kind of weird. I had to like recheck. So that's one. Number two is, don't try to, I think almost everybody who you may have interviewed or would have said this, don't take the scenario based questions, case study based questions upfront. Okay, mark all of them and move to all the questions you can conquer. I just thought, a lot of people told me, like a lot of seasoned professionals who have taken this exam have told me, like they had enough time, like 10-15 minutes and all that, after they could finish the exam well ahead of time. But I finished it right on time. So what could happen is, don't spend more than like 2 to 3 minutes max on all the basic questions. It will be simple if you take the smaller ones because of your preparation. It could get really, really simple at times. Finish off all those questions and then go to the math ones and then go to the case study ones. So that's, I think it's a lot of people have told that. I'm just repeating that. So that's, even I thought maybe something else could be a technique to do this, but no, it doesn't work like that. Don't forget to mark a question, and don't over check your answers too much. If you're confident, just go ahead and submit that. Just be a little early for like if you're taking a public transport. I took the exam in Bangalore, so I reside in Bangalore. So since when I was like, the Bangalore traffic could be a real, challenge, to just try and be there on time so that you can just negotiate. I mean, you can just take that out of your head, the traffic part of it. You have some breaks and all that. I never happened to take any breaks, but you can take breaks. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So yeah.
So, as you mentioned about case study questions, so my
Yeah.
next question is on the same only.
Yeah.
So, CBAP is actually known for its case based question. So,
Right.
how did you manage those during your exam time? As you mentioned, that you need to take that earlier, right? Mark it up and you take it later so that you can save the time. So,
That's
if
right.
you can just brief about that.
Okay, so the common case study questions is, people first of all don't get scared of case study questions. And sometimes when I was taking the exam, there was some question about some martial arts based case study. Okay, everybody was talking about the martial arts based case study and stuff like that. Don't get into that rat race. Don't get in because everybody's talking about it. Don't think that you cannot crack that. Think about the case study in your isolation. Think what is right for you. Whether it's right or wrong, it's a different thing, right? So if you're good in your knowledge areas, if you're good in your elements, if you're good in your inputs, outputs, if you're good in the techniques, guidelines, everything, you can see through the case study. So do not think like, okay, this case study has come, so the answer is this, so that's it. I'm going to hit that answer. So that's a bad approach according to me. I'm not saying whoever is going to follow that technique, let them do that. That's fine. I wouldn't do that, because no matter how much I memorize, at the end of the day, I want to use what I've memorized for a scenario. Because at the end of the day, say 10 years after I take the exam, I keep renewing my certifications, I wouldn't like to be one of those people who are like, just going with the rat race. No, I don't want to do that. I want to probably at some point of time contribute my experiences to the BABOK. So if you're thinking in that fashion, right, you will not like, get intimidated by what somebody else says. So first thing is, take that out of your mind, if you're serious. So I think serious professionals who take up this exam will not, first of all, have that attitude, right? So please don't have that attitude of, okay, this person got their answer, so I have to panic about it. Oh, this question's come, I'm gone, Don't think like that. Think through this question. Look at what the answer is. You know how to handle a case study at that point of time. Your instructor would have told you how to handle a case study. My instructor told me, don't read the whole thing. Just read the answer, then you will figure out where it lies. At some case studies, it may hint you to go into some of the context of it. Then you see, it's exactly what you do at work. It's just that it's slightly different, but from a BABOK perspective. So if you can forget all the noise and just focus on what they're asking you in that case study, then it's pretty straightforward. So do not panic about case study. Use your common sense, use your brains, and do not like go with what others are saying about the case study. And this is not one of those exams after exam you go and discuss about your question paper. It's not that. It's something beyond that. Okay, it's a serious exam. So do not use those kind of techniques here. So follow your BABOK. You'll understand the underlying thread which connect this particular question, the scenario that they're asking, with one of the knowledge areas. Underneath that, you'll figure out one of the elements, one of the tasks, and one of the elements. And then if you know your techniques and everything in place, you can crack that. I did that. I guess there's no score, so I can't tell you, yeah, this case study I got a full mark. I can't tell you that. But so yeah, I was able to clear it in the first attempt. So hopefully, I think one of those case studies would have. There are quite a lot of case studies. I think 50 case studies were there.
As you mentioned, the CBAP, as everyone knows, CBAP is a tough exam and it has a very long duration of exam. I think it's around 3.5 hours, right?
Yeah.
And 120 questions. So, So, how did you handle that time management during your examination?
So as I told you, right? So a lot of people who I heard before the exam, they said they had a lot of time. They finished it within like 2 hours, 2.5 hours. People said that, but I couldn't finish it in 2.5 hours. I took till the last minute. Maybe I was slow. Each one's experience is different. So, but I would say if you can manage time better, then you have a round, you can test, you can check all the questions, and you can re-verify that, make sure nothing is marked, all that stuff. So sometimes what could happen if you also check again is you might get into the paralysis mode where you kind of, oh my god, would that be an answer? Would this be an answer? It's so close, right? Why can't I try that? So you can get into that fix as well. That's an individual perspective, but I think I used 3.5 hours. If you can finish it well within 3.5 hours, it's great. But it's I think it's each one's capability of doing it. But finish it within 3.5 hours. If you even if you don't finish it, it'll automatically time out.
So, for those who is preparing for the first time, what top three tips would you give them to ensure they can clear the exam in their first attempt?
Yeah, first thing is mentally be prepared before you even think about CBAP, before your first attempt and all that stuff. Think about mental discipline because this exam requires a lot of discipline. So mentally be prepared. Then you have to put in that effort. Okay. The BABOK, if you read it, is not enough. Okay, you have to read it chapter by chapter dedicatedly in silos so that you'll be able to understand from an examination perspective. So don't read the babok like that. Just segregate the chapters, and the moment you finish a chapter, try and if you are using something like Techcanvass, right? They have a lot of questions, and every chapter, I mean, every knowledge area wise questions that they have, like the match the following, all this stuff. So you can try and attempt those and see how good you are, or you can use any other. I don't want to say this, but then if you want to use my watermark, I mean, am I supposed to say only Techcanvass? I can say anything, right? So watermark is also equally good. So I'm not sure about other things, so I'm not bothered also. But then if you're good, just stick to the knowledge area wise preparation, and then don't take it lightly. I mean, prepare for all your if you can clear about 80% in your. The third thing I would say is in the full mock tests, right? Whether it's Tech Canvas or whether it's watermark, try and hit a 80% to be safe, right? If you can hit a 80% in your mock exams, then for sure, I think you can crack the CBAP exam. And don't think about after first attempt, after clearing, oh my God, I got low in this, high on this, comparable on this. It first of all, clearing it itself could be a daunting task. So if you get high on everything, great. So aim for that. So at least you'll get a mixture of high and comparable, maybe. So yeah, mental preparation, chapter wise preparation of the BABOK, and instead of reading the BABOK end to end, and then you just have to make sure that you take up the mock exams, the 3 mock exams, and then how many ever mock exams you can put your hands on, the full length ones. If you can score at 80%, you're pretty much cert to an extent. If you don't forget, you can get at about 80%. You can crack the CBAP.
Correct. So practicing a question, basically, overall, what I understood is very much important. You need
Absolutely.
to practice again and again.
Yep.
So, like you said CBAP is for senior analyst, and you guys are working professional. So
Yep.
many professionals juggle between the preparation and their full-time work. So what worked for you in balancing both? At the same time, you are working also and you're preparing for your exam, though it's a very tough exam. So how
Yeah.
did you balance both?
As I told you, the first tip that I gave your students, right, who are trying to prepare, is to have a mental discipline first in order before you think about CBAP. That was kind of tough for me. So once you have a mental discipline, then what you would do is you would dedicatedly spend 2 hours to start off with. You would spend 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the evening. So this goes for about 8 months or so. 8 months, I'm talking about 8 months if you want to crack CBAP in the first attempt. So if you have a mental discipline of 4 hours of dedicated study, and then any time that you get in between, if you could just revisit some of the stuff that you wish you could do it more. 4 hours plus another additional 1 hour is great. Towards the end, what I did was I kind of took a week off because I wanted to be like only focused on this and I didn't want any distractions. So I kind of worked. I took like a week off from work, and then I prepared for this. And then before the exam, I had to like go through a lot of these mock exams, the 3 hour full length, 3.5 hours full length ones. So that I would recommend. Working professionals, yeah, it's kind of tough, So that's why I'm saying it. If you're not a working professional, maybe it's easy, but then no working professional, no non-working professional would take up a CBAP. So working professionals have to. There's no other option. That's why I'm saying 8 months is a pretty decent time to prepare for this exam. That's because it's a serious exam, right? So you don't like say if you're going. Think about it like in one of your your schools or colleges, right? If it's a final semester or something, you just go and you give all that you have, correct? So that is
Correct.
exactly what you have to do for this as well. Probably a little more, because you're out of touch of studying like that. Rather, we do a lot of nimble learning right now. So we're not used to that kind of heavy duty stuff, right? So 8 months would be great, and then last 3 months is very important. And if you can take a week off from your work, it'll be like fantastic. It helped me. There are some professions who can juggle both. There are professionals who have family, kids, and all that. Hats off to them. You know, the way they prepare is meticulous, right? So that's pretty much what you can do if you're a working professional.
So, since you have completed your CBAP training with Techcanvass,
Mhm.
could you share how it supported your preparation and the confidence?
The main thing was all these revision tests that I had with Techcanvass after each module, each knowledge area was very useful. That I like I like the concept of match the following. It was like very interesting. It was not boring at all. So that was really good. The mock test was very useful, I would say, because the mock test, if you can, it is kind of tough. It was tougher than the real exam, I would say. That was very helpful. And of course, you're asking only about the Tech Canvas material, or you're asking about the Tech Canvas help as
Overall
overall?
experience, overall your see, because you did your training with Techcanvass, right? So
Right.
overall, how did it help?
So yes, I would say the greatest help that I got was from my instructor, that Satish. I'll never forget that. I didn't know that Satish would be my instructor, because I really looked up to him in 2023 when I had no clue what CBAP was. I thought it was a piece of cake. Just read the BABOK, clear it on your own. But that's when he demystified what it was and what it was not, who it was not for, and things like that. And I think, I mean, having a fantastic instructor like Satish was half the job done. And then, of course, the training material that Tech Canvas has is very good. For the price, it's very. I'll be honest with you. If you want to do the same thing with another competitor of yours, it's quite expensive. Probably neck to neck. Like, let's say I'll honestly compare Watermark, for example. So Watermark and Tech Canvas. I'd say Tech Canvas is slightly a notch more tougher. The exams. I would say Tech Canvas is the exams. Satish and all the learning materials that I had was fantastic. In fact, I showed you, right, these things, these mind maps and stuff were like phenomenal. Yeah, it saved me. I mean, ideally, I would have done something like this on my own. That it saved me all the time for doing all these mind maps. So it was, all these things really came in handy towards the last 3 months.
Thank you so much, Amuthan. So, finally, the last question would be, what advice would you give it to professionals who still hesitate to begin their CBAP journey? Because there are many people who start their learning, but
Mm.
in between, somehow they lost the track.
Right.
So, what advice would you like to give it to those people who just thinking, who just hesitate to start it?
Okay, I just want whoever's listening to this to remember this. Okay, when life gets heavy, right, we have a gravitational pull to do something different. Remember that, okay? And bring your curiosity to a crisis. So these are the two things. If you can remember, it's very easy to and just dive in. Okay, if you're serious about CBAP, a lot of people are serious about CBAP. There will be a point of time. That's exactly why I quoted these two things. There'll be a point in your life you'll say, "This is it. I have to do it." It happened for me, so I'm pretty sure a lot of people would have gone through the same thing. Thousands of them would have gone through the same thing. So at that point is when you decide, okay, I am. There's no turning back right now. I'm going to go all out. Whether I pass, whether I don't pass, that's a different thing. But then I'm going to go all out. The preparation is very important. That's what it. If when you enjoy the preparation, the destination is reached already. So it's a matter of just execution. So that's what I would say. To the folks who are preparing for this exam, don't doubt yourself. Give all that you have. And for some people, I think, as I told you, right, life becomes heavy, right? So they have to find out something. It's an automatic, pull that they have to do something different. So that's something different is what is CBAP, and not everyone does CBAP in today's world. My only thing is, I feel this is not your question, but I just want to add something to it, like how we had the Agile Extension Handbook to the BABOK. I'm pretty sure that they would do that. IABA would do that in the coming versions of Babok, is to include some kind of a supplement for the AI world that we are in today. I would recommend, this particular book that I picked up. It's called Future Proof. It's a fantastic book. Okay, it's written by the folks who have written the Babok, who have authored the Babok. A natural gravitation to after the Babok, if you could say. If they could have something like this, in their version 4 or something like that, it'll be fantastic. But that's my perspective. But for who was preparing for it, just dive in, but just mentally be prepared. Don't doubt yourself. And there's help all over. I mean, I would love to help anyone who's asking me anything. And there's absolutely, there's no hoarding of information here. It's all out. If you're not going to help, somebody is going to help. So that's how it is. And there's help always available for whoever's serious about it.
That's a wonderful discussion, Amuthan. Thank you so much for sharing such a valuable insights and the practical
Anytime.
advices. So before we wrap up, if you had to summarize your CBAP journey in one line, what would it be?
Intense. One word or one line?
One line.
One line, okay. I don't have a line. I'll just put it as one word. I can only think of the word
That's
intense.
okay.
It was intense. Okay.
Thank you so much. It
Anytime.
was a wonderful session, and
Thanks,
I'm
Bhavana.
sure it will definitely help many aspirants, okay, who is still thinking to start their preparation. So yeah, that was a great to have you, and thank you so much for you to taking out time and sharing the detailed experience. Thank you once again for joining us on FuturePath Global. And for our viewers, if you found this conversation helpful, make sure to follow us for more inspiring stories and real world insights from professionals shaping the future of business analysis. Until next time, I am Bhavana and this is FuturePath Global by Techcanvass. Stay curious, stay inspired.